is a story about wrestling, street dogs, and catharsis. Making a fool of yourself at the Doomsday Wrestling Ring is no pretty endeavor. In the rehearsal space, the glare of the light bulb throws the harshest of unflattering shadows upon everyone on the dingy walls, the dusty yet sticky black carpet. The entire building is an exercise in harsh rawness and building code violations. If you've ever heard of the maggot colony downtown, aka Francisco Studios, this is its sibling. Strange smells, powerful drum riffs, dankness, a feral parakeet colony, a roaring train, and mysterious goings-on 24/7. All in the shades of, well, festering, if festering were a color. There's no pearls to put on this pig. You get to figure out how comfortable you are with yourself. Pay attention to every move. Support the story and those in the ring with you. Accept constructive criticism. No one's there to tear you down. It's not about egos. We all build the wrestling ring and take it down on show day. There's no passive-aggressive bullshit. I was glad to be around that. Back in early 22, I trusted Greg, who is Tech's Lone Star, Doomsday Wrestling's creator, because of what I'd already seen at the rehearsal space. Lack of judgment on accidental butt cracks galore. No one cared. Hell, even my grungy jeans, the ones we all have that used to fit 5 years ago, had split apart in the ring. No one cared. Everyone, including me, had farted mid-move in front of all under that harsh light. No one cares. It's about what you do and how you do it, not how pretty you look. Now, this isn't some rom-com meet cute. Greg and I were friends then and are friends now. It's about what happened and how it happened, not some pretty fairy tale. It was March 2022. I couldn't escape the ugliness of truth anywhere then. I was renting a big old house on a fenced double lot in the Heights. The rent was ridiculously cheap because the owner wanted to renovate it. That meant she didn't want to repair anything, whether it was the blackened air vents or gaps in the wood floor. But the reason everything worked out the way it did in the story I'm telling you now is because everything around me was so raw. It made the most important things I needed to see visible. That mattered because of other important things I'd lost. Years of family toxicity had exploded just 2 months earlier. My 2 nephews in Wisconsin had just been placed in foster care. My brother, fresh out of jail, had told me I would never see them or talk to them or him again, blaming me for his out-of-state alcoholic destruction, although the police and CPS begged to differ. My stomach was twisted all the time from going up against my family's pattern of enablement. Adults had choices. Those kids didn't. So it's about what you do and how you do it. Not how pretty you look standing there acting worried. It was terrifying, and I needed all the woo-woo positive manifestations the universe could throw at me. Y'all, that's actually exactly what happened. As my family implosion continued at the start of March, by coincidence, Greg brought over a mess of a stray dog to my house. We named her Beyonce for good luck. She was mostly Chihuahua, her fur gone due to mange, emaciated, lethargic. Greg had seen her deteriorating in the yard of the house she was kept at, spotted her when she suddenly escaped, scooped her up, called rescue group 3 little pitties, and then called me. Why? Because of the house I was in, with a back door and a doggy door, the huge yard, the fence. It was shabby, run down, but it was about what it was and how it could work, not how pretty it looked. Mick came a few days later, another Little Pitties rescue foster. Mick was short for McKinney Street in Edo, where he was found, laying there with a prolapsed rectum, wheezing, full of heartworms. 3 Little Pitties adoptive process transports street dogs here out to families in the Pacific Northwest. Greg had worked with them before. I hadn't, but I had to believe that it would work. Trust everyone and myself. I was broke, being a grad student, and Greg asked if I could keep them at my house and he would do the rest. I didn't doubt the motivation. I just knew reality gets in the way. The worst hours for me then were always after dark, when the emptiness would come. The foster thing filled that. Beyonce slept with me, Mick snored on the couch. And true to his word, Greg came by every day to take care of the dogs. It was messy, with Beyonce needing a bath every other day for the mange. But it was about what the dogs needed and how to do that with what we had, not how pretty the towels were. Greg had a weird schedule like I did, so we walked them late at night. Walk isn't the right word. Grappled and negotiated is more accurate. Mick, in particular, let his feelings be known primarily at intersections. He weighed 80 pounds. His cylindrical shape, short legs, and prolapsed rectum situation, along with his ability to Velcro himself to asphalt, made him impossible to nudge or pick up when he would become philosophical and gaze toward the east, mainly in the middle of a street crossing. We'd usually end up sitting with him in the empty midnight street, 10 minutes at a time, squinting to follow his thoughtful, stubborn gaze. Persuasive methods availed us nothing. Beyonce would chew on his ears as he meditated cryptically. During this, Greg and I hung out, cracked jokes, discussed the dogs, comedy, wrestling, shared Houston nerd folklore, Fitzgerald's, emos, Mattress Mac's reputation in the 90s, Marvin Zindler. We sat across from each other on the 2 couches, watching the dogs cavorting and snorting on the rug in between. Those random conversations grounded me, reminded me I had other roots in this city. Both dogs improved daily. Beyonce's fur grew back slowly. She shredded every toy crossing her horizon. Mick became more active and no longer hid under the house, though his philosophical intersection behavior stayed immutable. Witnessing this right under my nose made me stop and catch my breath. I'm not into woo-woo shit, but it was weird, and I was grateful. Wait, there's more. Wrestling's theatrical bent had been characterized by philosophers as a spectacle of excess, a real human comedy, the struggle between good and evil in the square circle. Doomsday wrestling is more of the human comedy than pro wrestling is. It's done by folks who are not professional athletes, with characters generated from the absurd everyday life here in Houston. There's always an overarching story in between matches. some wild problem Tex Lone Star blunders into. The emphasis is on story and comedy first. I mean, of course what happens at Doomsday Wrestling Show is completely organic and spontaneous. Kayfabe, willing suspension of disbelief from the audience. Anyway, the show we were rehearsing that March had a storyline not generated by me or by anyone who knew what happened with my nephews. Yet, coincidentally, the problem Tex Lone Star blunders into in this show featured the discovery of an unclaimed infant under the ring at the start of the show. Of course, that meant a fight for its custody between the Rad Dad tag team and Hill's Monte Del Monte and 110% Al. Of course, underhanded exploits and outrageous cheating abounded. Of course, Cat Stevens was played when a Rad Dad stopped to match to give a fishing lesson to his cheating opponent. Of course, a wild splatter ladder wrestling match is needed with 2 ladders and the baby suspended in midair above. Of course, the infant in question ends up drinking crazy steroid juice. Of course, the steroid juice makes the baby glow and morph into a giant baby monster. Of course, it was coincidentally cathartic as hell. A few months later, both Mick and Beyonce were adopted through 3 Little Pitties to owners in the Seattle area. They sent updates, photos, and both dogs are healthy, happy, surrounded by love. Sometimes good things do happen. Thank you, Greg, and everyone at 3 Little Pitties and the Doomsday crew.